Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. The Ontario government releasing its fall economic statement today, possibly its last one before an early election call. While the budget shows an improved economic outlook, the province is continuing to run a deficit as it goes ahead with its plans to send out $200 checks to all taxpayers. It also shows the government falling even further behind in building new homes. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redicop has more.
The Premier and Finance Minister headed in to release their mini budget. It all had the feel of an election campaign.
Tell me, is that good or bad?
The minister repeatedly comparing previous government policies to what's happening now under Doug Ford and the PCs.
How about that? Is that good or bad?
He didn't ask them about housing starts. They're not even close to the province's target, down from the spring budget projection, with around 81,000 new homes expected to be built this year. The government's goal was 125,000. Even that was after it changed the definition to include long-term care beds and student housing.
People in Ontario are tired of gimmicks. They want to know, where are the homes? Where are the homes we were promised? Because we can't find any.
High interest rates have had their impact, and that's cyclical, but we're not going to relent.
It means the province is even further away from its goal of building 1.5 million homes by 2031. The finance minister did highlight the payouts coming for 15 million Ontarians, $200 for every taxpayer and their children.
A family of 5 will receive $1,000.
It'll cost the province $3 billion. The numbers can be dizzying. Those $200 checks will go out as the province faces a $6.6 billion deficit this year. It's an improvement from the projection in the spring budget. At that time, the deficit was expected to be $9.8 billion. The biggest reason for the improved financial outlook? Higher sales tax revenue.
Ontario's finances are in better shape today than they ever have been in decades.
For next year, they're expected to improve again. The deficit projected to be $1.5 billion, the same amount in the contingency fund. So could it mean a balanced budget next spring?
Well, look, I'm an optimist. I'm always hoping that I can beat the numbers.
We know very well they're going to announce a balanced budget when they have money, $1 billion set aside in a contingency reserve.
Leading to more speculations of a potential early election. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Hundreds of newly licensed grocery stores across the province will be able to sell alcohol beginning tomorrow. It's all part of Ontario's plan to expand liquor sales. And among the stores jumping on board, dozens of Costco locations. Dale Manukduk has more.
Starting tomorrow, 412 grocery stores will be added to the list of ones able to sell booze, including ready-to-drink cocktails. That brings the total amount of grocery stores licensed in Ontario to just over 860. Of the new stores, all 41 Costco locations in the province can start slinging suds and other alcoholic drinks.
You're encouraging people to booze and get drunk. For me, no good.
The LCB was doing just fine, and it's accessible to most people. I don't see why we need to have more outlets.
I think so. It's okay. All of the Europe do the same, so for me it's okay.
I think the competition is good, and I like to see more options for consumers to buy things. If the price is competitive, I'll certainly take advantage of it.
While that's great news for a big box retailer, some smaller grocers are not as happy, according to the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers. Just last week, grocers were told they'll have to participate in the Ontario Deposit Return Program, or ODRP, and were sent this video by the LCBO.
Participation in ODRP is a condition of the AGCO license for grocery store licensees starting October 31st of this year, unless there is a temporary exception.
The CFIG says the number of stores signed on to sell booze is low when looking at the more than 5,000 stores in Ontario, and it could go down.
Of the ones who have licenses, there are many who will be turning in their licenses when the exemption expires in 2026, which is right now. You don't have to recycle if you're within 5 kilometers of a beer store. When that exemption ends at the end of 2025, the end of next year, there are many independents, unless the rules are changed, who will turn in their licenses.
Gary Sands says smaller size stores don't have the space to create a recycling area. He says some are turned off about the idea of dirty bottles and cans being brought into the store, which could risk cross-contamination with fresh food. As the province expands the sale of alcohol, the LCBO's revenues are projected to be $800 million more than previously estimated because of the liquor store's role as a wholesaler. According to the fall economic statement, by that time, the beer store's market share will shrink to 15%, while the LCBO's will grow to more than 3/4. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto's housing crisis was front and center at City Hall today. The mayor announcing an ambitious plan to build more affordable units in the city.
Housing starts in September of this year are down 81% compared to last year. Why? The short answer is the math doesn't work.
Olivia Chow says financial concerns are keeping housing projects stalled. So today she announced a plan to provide more incentives to builders to get shovels in the ground. It could cost taxpayers $400 million and provides developers with a mix of tax breaks and fee deferrals, all with the goal of building 7,000 purpose-built rental units. The chair of the Housing Committee says the city could build 20,000 units with help from other levels of government. The plan comes before the mayor's executive committee next week. CBC News has obtained video of a violent arrest that happened in Mississauga on Monday. The man being taken into custody is thrown to the ground and suffers a bloody injury to his face. He spoke with our Greg Ross today, and a warning, some may find the video disturbing.
The arrest happened at Parish 14 restaurant. Two officers can be seen on top of Craig Dew. At one point, he's able to get back to his feet, only to be thrown back down to the ground. Blood begins to pool on the floor under his face, and he appears to be unconscious a short time later.
The point where I hit the ground, like it just went blank.
Dew came away with a fat lip and a cut in his mouth. He says he did nothing to warrant the arrest.
There's nothing to hide. Wrongfully assaulted, wrongfully accused.
Dew says he had just finished a meal at the restaurant when the officers came in. He said they didn't say much to him.
He just came and he just started grabbing me by my neck for no reason.
Police have a different version of events.
What led up to the interaction that we saw in that video was a drug investigation. Officers had grounds to arrest that individual, who then went into that establishment. Officers attempted to have him step out to proceed with the arrest, not to impact anybody else in the vicinity, at which point he was resistant.
The officers in this video are members of the Peel Police Community Intervention Response Team. They're accusing Dew of selling marijuana.
Some sort of sale occurred involving this individual and other individuals, which were also intercepted by police a little bit later.
Dew has been charged with possession of cannabis for the purpose of selling and obstructing police. He says he only had a small amount of marijuana that was for personal use.
Just regular marijuana. It's nothing. Weed is legal in Canada.
Police say they seized a large quantity of suspected marijuana.
I just finished serving the gentleman that was injured food.
This woman, who works at the restaurant, says she didn't see Dew selling drugs, and she says the use of force by police was excessive.
They pull him off the chair, and of course he tried to shuffle, and they fling him on the wall, as you guys can see on the video what happened. Throw him on the wall, and then body slam him, choke him, and he was knocked out.
I would caution anyone to suggest excessive force off the hop. It's important to understand a circumstance in totality.
We don't see in the video how the altercation started. Police say they used force to get Dew under control.
No use of force encounter looks good on camera. And it's a particularly dynamic situation and a volatile one for officers as well. You don't know what a physically resisting subject is trying to do or what they might have planned. So getting someone under control quickly is essential to the safety of that individual and the officers as well.
Dew told us that he's never been arrested or charged before this, but police dispute that. They say that he is facing 4 other charges separate from this incident that are all still before the courts. Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
In York Region, police have arrested 3 teenage boys and are searching for 2 more suspects after a home invasion in Markham. Police releasing security footage of the incident today. It happened early Monday morning in the area of Steeles and Bayview. Now, in the video, you can see 5 suspects, 2 of them armed with hammers. Police say they gained entry into the home by smashing a back door. They then allegedly threatened someone in the home, demanded the keys to the victim's Ferrari and BMW, and forced them to open the garage door. Investigators later located the suspect vehicle in Toronto, and 2 teens were arrested. The stolen BMW was also recovered in Toronto, while the Ferrari was found in Brampton. A 3rd suspect was arrested today in Pickering. The 2 suspects still outstanding are described as male, 16 to 20 years old. The Art Gallery of Ontario says they've been impacted by a cybersecurity incident after an unauthorized third party accessed the gallery's internal shared server. In a statement to CBC Toronto, the gallery says the vast majority of customer data and credit card information were not accessed. The AGO says they are notifying individuals whose information may have been impacted. The gallery says the museum's operations continue as scheduled. Well, some sad news from the Toronto Zoo today. One of the zoo's oldest residents, Charles the gorilla, has died. As Ali Chiasson found out, the ape was a favorite among visitors and the zoo staff who cared for him.
Charles is literally one of our founders. The zoo opened and he grew up with the place. He grew up with the community.
Charles, the silverback gorilla, lived to 52 years old, surpassing the life expectancy of his species by at least a decade. He died of heart failure. Now he's being remembered for the impact he had at the Toronto Zoo.
He was a personality that went from this rambunctious teenager and matured into this incredible adult, this massive 190-kilogram silverback. He is the silverback, was the centerpiece of the troupe for decades and decades and decades. And that's a really unique dynamic as he got to live with his family, multiple generations of family.
Oh, look at that, Mike. Charles was not only the patriarch of the gorilla troupe at the zoo, he was also the highlight for so many visitors over the years.
It was very important to bring my son here to the zoo. It's his first time visiting today. And when I was young, I definitely visited Charles as a kid, so I remember Charles growing up.
Gets you a little bit choked up though, doesn't it, when you hear, right?
It's sad news, but at the same time, the work here that the staff do every day really speaks to how, you know, animals can be a part of the community and make a big impact.
His origin story begins in the 1970s.
Charles actually came from Gabon. He's one of the rare cases of our past where an animal was orphaned and came from the wild.
Charles went on to sire 11 offspring and had 6 grandchildren, one of them being young Charlie, named after Grandpa.
It's always sad when such a beloved and charismatic individual as Charles is lost from a zoo community. These kinds of animals play a really important role in conservation.
These days, gorillas at accredited zoos like Toronto's are born in human care, where this primate ecologist says they live good, long lives like Charles did.
Seeing them in zoos is really what makes people care about the plight of these animals, about their conservation, and so it's a real loss.
Now that he's passed, zoo staff will be paying close attention to his troupe and how they're doing. When a silverback dies, it can be destabilizing. Eventually, they'll invite a new silverback into the troupe from another accredited zoo.
The structure socially is that strong male leading. So yeah, in time we'll see if and who will rejoin this group.
Meantime, people are being encouraged to donate to conservation efforts in Africa.
That'll be a great way to give back and honor Charles.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
GO train passengers on the Lakeshore East Line were treated to an unusual commute this morning as the Royal Winter Fair unveiled its ambassadors for the year. That is Pacey and Dawson, the 2 fluffy alpacas meeting passengers ahead of the Royal Winter Fair, which kicks off at the Enercare Centre on Friday. Welcome back. Winter is hopefully still a while away, but when it arrives, the city says it is prepared. It showed off its snow clearing plans today. And in addition to unveiling the hundreds of pieces of heavy equipment, this year, Toronto's transportation services is also trying to go high tech. Chris Glover has the details.
On a balmy October day, the city unveiling its winter readiness plan that's actually already underway.
Staff are already tracking the weather forecasts and personnel are preparing streets for the snow that is to come.
We are prepared for any potential eventuality, whether it's 50 centimeters in a day or 50 centimeters in an entire season.
City of Toronto officials talking about all the equipment that they get ready. We can show you some of it here. There's some 1,400 pieces of equipment.
For this upcoming winter season, we've installed 2 new weather stations. So now we have 10 across the city. They're strategically located. They provide us timely and detailed data to help us plan our winter equipment activations.
In years past, particularly during a dramatic 55-centimeter snowfall one day in January of 2021, the city was blasted for its slow and uneven response. Now harsher fines are being used to hold contractors accountable.
The last 2 years, we've had a new set of contracts that are really focused on performance so that we can deliver the service. There are escalating fines.
Recent bylaw changes are also expected to improve the snow clearing response. In the past, city officials could only kick into gear its major winter response once 5 to 10 centimeters of snow had accumulated. Now that condition can be declared days before the snow flies.
Waiting until after the snow came down did not serve the general residents well, nor did it help us in terms of removing the snow. So we can now declare in advance, get the message out, and that will help everybody in terms of moving vehicles on snow roads. That'll help us clear the snow. We've also changed the bylaw so that the General Manager of Transportation Services can now close a road for approximately 24 hours in the event that a snow removal exercise has to take place. And there were some situations in 2021 where the snow was so heavy in certain pockets that it was difficult for us to remove the snow as traffic was moving, still navigating throughout that road.
Another way that they're trying to improve the response here is to actually use technology in a different way. Here's the officials talking about how they're using technology differently, especially when it comes to salting.
The salting equipment also has special features called spinners that can be programmed to safeguard against the over-application or spillage of salt. Staff are also considering the use of AI technology that automates salt application to ensure appropriate salt quantities are applied.
It can detect how much snow is falling, it can detect how warm it is, and it can also detect the temperature of the road, and if in fact the driver is able to navigate safely by assessing the traction of the tires. And it takes all that information and then it programs the salt spinner to apply the appropriate amount of salt.
So there is one important example of how technology is going to help the city have a better response when winter starts. Another way is with water mains, and they have a little display here where you can see some of the oldest water mains in the city. This is what the problematic ones would have looked like. And then down below there, we have that blue water main, what they ultimately will look like as the city works to kind of replace them, as we now have something like 700 water main breaks in the city each and every year. I have Bill Shea from Toronto Water here to talk a little bit about how technology is being used right within the water mains to try to, improve how they operate in the city. Can you explain that for us?
Absolutely, we can. So in the past, the way that you would upgrade a water main is to dig it up and put it in a new one. We still have to do that sometimes because we may have to resize it, make it bigger. But this is an example of lining a water main. Now this is done with the water main in the ground. Pits are dug at about 100 meters apart, and the water main's completely cleaned out, scanned, and very sophisticated technology where a sock is inserted with an epoxy resin and turns into this inside lining. Now, this isn't just a liner to make it smoother.
Right.
This is a new pipe. So if this was now to corrode away, this pipe would last. It's very, very strong.
All part of a multi-pronged plan below and above ground to try to make Toronto winter ready, even if the snow still feels a long way off. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, Well, Colette, we are just a day away from all the little trick-or-treaters going out and about, door to door. You have some good news, but also maybe some not so good news for tomorrow night.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything kind of coming our way. I mean, the good news, it is going to be mild. I mean, incredible. We'll flirt with a record again tomorrow, so that possibility is there. We had a new record today, a new record daytime high, as we went up to 23.1 degree, and the old record was 21.7. So we did pretty good there, and we've got that chance tomorrow. But let's just go ahead and show you kind of what's going on, the big picture. We'll start off with that. So the stronger winds in the upper atmosphere, our jet stream, just riding right across essentially the Great Lakes region, and with that, a lot of energy. So actually, where we have that contrast, because we've got cooler air to the north, and we know we're into the warmer air, on that dividing line, some pretty active weather, and the jet stream helping with that. So some severe weather possible through the Midwest. For us, you know, just looking back on the daytime highs for today, that 23 in Toronto, but Oshawa at 21, Peterborough 22, Ottawa as well, and Windsor up to 24 degrees there. So also a record there. In fact, we saw multiple records being broken through today. So very nice conditions, but we know it's got to come to an end. And with it coming to an end, a cold front comes through, and that's going to be bringing the rain showers. Ahead of it, we will have breezy conditions again tomorrow, probably stronger, in fact, than today, especially for southwestern Ontario, but still into the GTA, we're talking about winds gusting 40, 50 kilometers an hour. So here you are. This is 1 p.m., and we do have the cloud cover. There'll be quite a bit of cloud cover, in fact, pushing through the day. The cold front begins coming towards us, and with it, there are showers along that. I've stopped this at 5 p.m. Could there be an isolated sprinkle in the GTA then? Yes, it's possible, but more so, it really looks like the timing of some rain showers kind of going through in those crucial hours between 6 and about 8 p.m. But generally, it will be light in nature and pretty short-lived. It's just that timing could be, a little difficult. You just want to be prepared and make sure that you've got an umbrella for the parents or a way to kind of keep the kids as dry as possible. I think they won't mind too much. So winds, looking at those, direction definitely from the southwest as they'll be stronger, and then they'll turn towards the west as we go into tomorrow's 22 after a low tonight of 16. Yes, very mild overnights as well. And then into Friday, it's kind of back to reality. And this weekend, of course, we've got to set those clocks back.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're turning back time.
Yeah, it's nice to get that fall back as long as the kids will sleep in and all that, so you
true.
get the actual sleep.
Yes, thanks so much, Colette.